the job is done. We can go home now.
I'm gonna see that he's testing me, no? I don't know. I mean, bomb. When is parade?
Thursday.
When is parade? No. I need to go
Of
home.
all the heaters Jokic has been on, this whole winning a championship is so bothersome to me is Pantheon level. The Denver Nuggets.
Oh, yeah.
And their run, their player, and yes, this man in Denver getting the points
Tony.
he deserves. Let's go around the horn.
Can you believe
Oh, Woody, I can smell Denver from here.
Rocky Mountain High? Can you believe it?
Listen to these points. Oh, carpal tunnel syndrome situation.
Alex English over there at the point.
Don't you try to knock him, Frank. So what are you going to try to tell me? The Nuggets had the easiest path any champions ever had? They had 3 play-in teams on their path to victory? Is that what you're trying to tell us? Let me say it this way. They made it 16-4 through the postseason. They're the first champion since the 92 Bulls to shoot better than 50% regular season and postseason combined. But when they needed to close out at home, it wasn't about efficiency. It was about that true grit. But who in Denver is parsing that today? It smells like victory. It smells like legislation. Woody, blazing your way to a 50-point bonus. You had it, your clairvoyance in the Gazette. There it is right there, top of the fold, front page, A1 page. What percentage is this championship a history-claiming team? What percentage is just Jokic being all-time? And what percentage is it they had a pretty good path to here, Woody?
I think Jokic was at least 2/3 of what they accomplished. The team itself really depended on him in the fourth quarter over and over again. And nobody in the history of the NBA has put up the numbers he has in 3 different categories: leading your team and leading the series in points, leading the team and the opposition in assists, and leading him, of course, in rebounds too. So when you have a situation where Jokic, who has been the MVP for 2 years in the past and should have been the MVP this year, was in the Western Conference Finals, was in the finals, you have to think that without him, they're a 5th or 6th seed at best. With him, they're a team that is a champion, and that all the contributing players, and each one of them sort of helped in a different game. When we had Bruce Brown in one game, Aaron Gordon going off for 27 points in another game. Last night, Michael Porter Jr. actually came through with an excellent game. And of course, Jamal Murray was the second best player on the team all season long. So I would say that part of it is the team, most of it is Jokic, and I would think as little as possible is about the teams they played, because they were playing well at the end of the season, even though 2 of them were, or 3 of them were walk-in teams, if you will, because I read before the series started, talking about the playoffs, that if they were to win the championship, they would be the worst championship team of all time.
Yes.
And so I went through and looked at all of them, and I felt like they would have been middle of the rung because of one thing. They had Jokic. So you can't take him out of the equation and say this team was not something.
All right, we're up against
special.
PTI here, Woody Page. We're right here. Tony and Mike want to get on, but we have more show to get to. Frank Isola, you were covering this series as well. How will you view this Nuggets team?
Well, certainly Jokic is, to me, an all-time player, but this is also an organizational win because this team built through the draft, and then they add guys like Bruce Brown and Jeff Green, terrific role players. Give the organization a lot of credit with sticking with their coach, Michael Malone. I knew him when he was an assistant coach at Manhattan College. How about the job that he has done? But you know what? Their road, you could say, was easy, but guess why? Because they took the regular season seriously, and they were #1 in the West. So you should get an easier road to the finals. But that being said, you are beating Kevin Durant, you are beating LeBron James along the way, then you're beating the team that beat Boston and also Milwaukee. You mentioned 16-4. They won 10 of their last 11 games. That's in the playoffs. It's hard to win 10, 11 games during the regular season. They did that in the playoffs. They were the best team, and they earned it, 100%.
David Dennis Jr., how you view this Nuggets team?
Yeah, this is about 75% Jokic, but that other 25% is just as integral in terms of what you have going forward. We watched this team become a championship squad before our eyes and take a championship journey. Just a few years ago, they were one game, eliminated from the playoffs with 1 game left in the regular season. They made it to the conference finals in the bubble. They had a devastating injury and lost to championship teams along the way. And now finally they become crowned champions. And what you see going forward when this happens is you see a team learn how to win ugly. Last night was an ugly game. They could not make a three-pointer and they struggled, but they were making offensive rebounds and pulled it out at the end. And what that does is that empowers you going forward. We see these sort of dynastic type teams when they get their first championship, it sort of feels fluky, but the next year they get better. The Warriors came back to 73-9 that next year. That 2001 Lakers team was dominant in the playoffs. The 92 Bulls, you can go back.
But you've already used the D word from David Dennis Jr. has come out here. Dynastic team. I mean, I like that you like to look forward here. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, that's not to say that they're going to win a championship, but they're going to be better next year than they were
Clinton
this year.
Yates, I'll bring you in here on this Nuggets team.
You mentioned the Bulls, where we were once told that organizations win championships. I don't believe that, but organizations can build champions, and that's exactly what has happened here. There is no doubt in my mind that Michael Malone is as important to this as any coach has been to any other situation, not more important than Jokic specifically for this team. Ask the Sacramento Kings who got rid of him and where they are right now. To me, sticking with Murray after that injury, not that he was going anywhere, but just in general from a squad standpoint, also with MJP, who people thought might not even play in the league anymore. To me, it just shows that the Kroenke-led teams, this is what they do. They stick with their plan and they execute it. A lot of NBA teams could do to, follow the Nuggets lead. You're not just going to find a Jokic, wandering in the wilderness, but you might be able to actually have a plan and see if it's going to work over more than just 3 seasons at a time in little pieces.
But they did find Jokic wandering through a Taco Bell commercial, and this is the full story. It's a movie. Please, humor me. I got to start from the beginning. You've seen this photo of him in his youth. It's canon at this point. But there's also this, another young photo of him, even younger. He's wearing a Nuggets sweatshirt. How destined is that? And yes, he was drafted at number 41 during a commercial at the Cheesy Gordito. But there's then the 2 MVPs and now a postseason where he led, as Woody just said, in points, rebounds, and assists. Not his team, every team. That's never been done before in the history of the sport. So, Frank, you've covered this final and nearly 3 decades more. Historically, where is the performance we just saw in this postseason and Jokic with this ring?
I think it now puts him in a certain class because he won the MVP back-to-back, almost won it this year. But to lead your team, everyone was saying, yeah, but what has he done in the playoffs? He hasn't won a championship. What are we going to say next? He's never won an Olympic gold medal? We're going to keep raising the bar for Nikola Jokic. He was absolutely sensational. And let's remember, go back to a couple months ago when this conversation about the MVP, where it really started to get a little nasty, I thought that he withdrew a little bit. It was almost as if, you know what? I'm not about this. I'm not about winning the MVP. I want to win the championship. And look at his teammates, the owner, the coaches, on that podium after the game, all chanting MVP. Why wouldn't you want to play with this guy? You want to talk about making players better? LeBron was certainly like that. Michael Jordan. This guy makes his teammates better because the talent on that team, name me the other All-Star that's there. I don't think they have another All-Star right now. He makes everyone around him better, and now they're a champion.
Okay, but far be it from us to avoid any conversation on this show. For him to get a ring now, with the 2 MVPs, to have a postseason where statistically he did something that's never been done before in the history of sport. Talk to me about all-time player or all-time center. Go ahead. Pick a list. Give us where he is.
To me, he's definitely an all-time center. I'm not putting him ahead of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but he's certainly up there. He's so unique. We've never really seen a player like that because the game has changed so much.
Oh, I'm sorry it's hard and we've never seen it before. Now, you're not giving me a number. David Dennis Jr., I go to you.
First of all, not only was he drafted during the Cheesy Gordita Crunch commercial, when he re-signed, SportsCenter ran Yusuf Nurkic's highlights during the announcement that he was re-signing with the Nuggets. So this guy's been sort of overlooked this whole time. Look, 2 MVPs, Finals MVP, and a championship. Only 11 players have that for their entire career, and that's essentially the who's who in league history. The LeBrons, the Jordan, Curry, Kareem, all those folks. I would put Jokic... Giannis right there. I would put Jokic right towards the tail end of that category all time, but I wouldn't put him above those players because he doesn't have the stat accumulation. But if we're talking about 3 seasons at a peak, his 3 seasons that he's had are as good as just about anybody. The closest comparison I would say is Shaq at the turn of the century, what he did with that 3-peat, and the fact that there is just no answer for Jokic in the same way there wasn't an answer for Shaq.
Woody, hold on a second. I want to get Clinton Yates before we return to Denver. Go ahead, Clinton.
Yeah, I'm not going to undermine the notion of we haven't seen it before. Revolutionizing the game is revolutionizing the game. A 7-footer who plays below the rim with touch and that kind of ability to control a basketball game is unlike anything we know of. And think back to when Steph Curry was playing what he was playing. Forget the rankings. I'm looking at what I'm looking at. If more teams say, I think I'm going to try to get a guy like a Jokic in order to develop a player, to me, that's as impactful as anything else we're going to see, whether the rankings change or not. I think that the way that he plays is going to affect the way that other people play in terms of who they pick and who they want going forward in the NBA.
All right, Woody Page, it's all on the menu for you. Do you see Jokic now as an all-time great big man? Does he crack the top 5 of centers? Can I ask you that? You've covered the game for 6 decades.
Tom, you people who host shows are asking people to compare him to someone else. He is a unique player. You don't compare him to anybody else. I mean, there are people who have revolutionized the game. Wilt Chamberlain did. Dr. J did. Magic Johnson did. Michael Jordan did. What Bill Russell did. He is revolutionizing the game because people are going to come along and say, I've got to emulate him. All over the world, they're now saying, that's what I got to be. We were talking about putting him in the top 5 assist men of all time. We're talking about putting him in the top 10 of rebounders of all time. We're talking about putting him in the top point scorers of the top 20 of all time. When you compare those 3, we're not even beginning to talk about the defensive player we saw in the playoffs. People have said, oh, he plays no defense. You should have seen what he was doing in preventing 78% of the shots that were up against him. Plus, if you could see him coaching on the court and talking to the other players and putting his basketball IQ out there, he was unlike any other player I've ever seen in 50 years of basketball.
Well, there you go. All right, all right.
Sometimes
Sometimes you like to have a list, though. It's okay to score things. It's okay to have rankings. I mean, that's fine. We don't need to wait till they're done. We don't.
Guys playing
I don't
water
think
polo.
top 5
Everybody else is
assists,
just
Woody.
playing
Top 5
basketball.
assists, but is he going to get in that list with Stockton and Johnson and Kidd and Paul? And that's a tough one there. That's a tough list to crack as a big man. All right. I can't get enough of Jokic celebration videos, though. Let's go. When he just said he wanted to go home with Lisa Salters on the court, or when he just got the MVP trophy and left it on the podium afterwards and walked away, or when he looked at his phone to see if Djokovic texted him and realized he's got a million texts, I don't want anything to do with this, threw the phone over there. So the parade will be Thursday for the Denver Nuggets, which means Jokic cannot go home until Friday. He's got a big horse race he's worried about on Saturday and Sunday, so he cares about that. But here where he is in the top of the leaderboard in my rankings, not every parent can get a child to wear a leather jacket when they're a toddler at 1 year of age. Many are called, few are chosen. That is a phenomenal look. We'll be back. Buy or sell next.
Got a little Tim Duncan in him.
the Joker is.
The all-time scoring mark on this here program is 74. Sarah's Spain. Woody Page, you're putting a run at it. You got to shoot your range.
I want to shoot my age. Yeah.
Exactly. There's a what now question for the Miami Heat I want to ask you, because it's a run you won't forget. I mean, from play-in to 8 seed to finals, they squeeze every ounce out of the stone. But the question is, how far can the will and the culture and the playoff Jimmy really be dependent on as a franchise strategy? Clinton Yates, you're the Heat. What's your path to get back to this level and 3 more wins?
path to getting back to victory is to regroup and improve. They've got so many guys locked up in terms of contracts. It's going to be difficult to try to make a bunch of different moves. You've got to hope that Tyler Hero turns into the guy you expected him to be. And I don't just mean in terms of a season, I mean in general, because his extension starts next year from a career standpoint too.
Woody Page?
Well, Kevin Love did a nice job for them after he came over, but he's a guy they're going to have to replace. He's not coming back. They need another rebounder. They need another point guard. They need to not have people describe all their players as undrafted free agent types anymore, and go for somebody that actually they draft in the first round and actually could help this team get more depth than it has now.
So you need some great undrafted players, but you also need some great drafted players, is what you're saying. David, this team also has been known to be a free agent destination. Take me through their offseason.
Dame time. That's where you got to go.
I was waiting for somebody to go
and
there.
get the star. Go get him. You got a 2030 draft pick that's going to be freed up that you can move. You have assets. Maybe you can do something with, some of these contracts, because everybody at this team is at the peak of their value right now because everybody outperformed themselves. You go get Dame Lillard, or you go get another superstar who wants to get out of their teams, because that always happens every offseason.
And Frank Isola.
I think David got it right, and I wonder if they try to use Tyler Hero in an attempt to go get Damian Lillard. One thing about Jimmy Butler, he's a terrific player, but he needs an ensemble cast around him. The end of the game, he had that terrible turnover, the ill-advised shot. And remember this about Miami. Everything we said about them, they were great. They went 2-7 in their last 9 games. 2-7.
But it's better to get to the NBA Finals and lose than it is to not get to the NBA Finals. Wouldn't you say, Frank?
Yeah, that's
We've
true.
had this debate before.
Absolutely.
That's why I bring it up.
Frank would.
But Frank, you walked into the Jimmy Butler, is he a superstar? Is he just a star conversation? What does that even mean? The guy's been to 2 NBA Finals with teams. Has anybody gotten to 2 finals like he has with the supporting cast around him, Frank?
Well, let's slow down on that. They have Kyle Lowry makes $30 million, and Kevin Love was a max player at one time. So everyone talks about the undrafted guys. They have good talent there, and he's a terrific player, but he doesn't get knocked like Reggie Miller, Stockton Malone, Barkley, Ewing when they don't win championships. He gets called playoff Jimmy. He's never won a championship yet.
Whoa! David Dennis Jr.?
Did you see the way people were talking about him on social media last night? He was getting destroyed for how he played in the first 3 quarters of that game. But we've had in the history when all of these great players, they get said they make great playoff runs and lose in the finals. LeBron in 07, LeBron in 18, Iverson in 01, and Jimmy Butler was
It's a pretty good list to be on. I hear what you're saying, David.
Which is, right up there with LeBron's 07 run, and we're blasting
Better
him
to
for not winning
lose
the
in the
finals.
finals than to have made the finals at all. That's what we'll say. We'll
team
move
that
on.
he had no chance to
NFL news of the day, Stephon Diggs, unexpected no-show at Bills mandatory camp, and there's some mixed messaging here. Diggs was at medicals yesterday, at facility this morning, no shows for workouts. Sean McDermott elevated this when he said he was very concerned about the absence today. Diggs' agent says, everything's all right, he'll be here for the entirety of minicamp. So what do we have here, Woody Page, in this mixed messaging?
Well, I think there's a situation that we can't judge quickly on what's going on here. There are 3 of us on this show today that have had mental health issues. We don't know whether he's going through that. Josh Allen sort of indicated that it might be personal problems, or it might be that he doesn't like what has been set up for him when he at the Buffalo Bills after losing at the end of last season. So I think we need to just back off and see what develops here before we jump to any kind of judgment.
David Dennis Jr.?
It's definitely something to keep an eye on, even though I don't think it'll have many long-term ramifications. We know about him and Josh Allen having their spat on the sideline, but his contract, he's locked into that contract. They can't move him. This seems like something that they'll be able to work out before the
Frank, when you hear non-football related, but you also hear the coach say he's very concerned. How'd you hear it?
Yeah, there's obviously a lot more to the story. Remember that playoff game? He was upset on the sideline. Was this the first time that the team had been together as a whole? Since then, could there have been words exchanged in the locker room? Something's going on right there. Because how can it be money? Well, it's always about money. But last year he signed that big extension.
Glenn Yates.
Yeah, I'm selling the messaging on this. I've said this before on this show. I don't need to know everything that goes on behind closed doors at every pro franchise, and it seems like the Bills are getting something out there that for minicamp is something that I think could probably stay internal for clearly one of the best players on your team. This seems quite shaky from a lot of standpoints.
Glenn Yates, David Dennis Jr., thanks for your time. Woody Page, the speed limit in some jurisdictions. I don't think in Denver, actually, or Colorado. I think you can go faster than that. But not the all-time record. Woodrow, Frank, showdown in 2 minutes. All right, Woody Page, you got to seal the deal here. Good luck at Showdown versus Isola. Jaguars are talking to Daytona Speedway about having home games there in the future when they make over their stadium. Woody, NFL at Daytona, yes or no?
I'm going yes on this. Tennessee, the University of, played at Bristol Speedway and drew about 80,000 people, and it was a grand event that crosses racing with football. I love it.
Frank Isola?
When the Dodgers first moved to LA, they were playing at the Coliseum. You have NYCFC playing at Yankee Stadium, which is a joke. I'd love to see it. You play a couple games in London, play at Daytona, play a game up at University of Florida.
I don't think anyone realizes how big. You can fit a lot of stadiums inside Daytona, but play the game in the middle, have the cars go around the horn. How about that? Points. We'll move on. Showdown 2, how Stanford advanced to the World Series over Texas. This was bonkers, okay? You see it's a tie game, and you can see they think they're going to extras, but no, the ball drops in. Frank, thrill of victory or agony of defeat?
It's agony of defeat, and that's the thing about the great sport of baseball. These things happen. I remember being in the Phillies clubhouse after they gave up the home run to Joe Carter. You want to talk about agony? That's agony as well.
Woody?
You want to talk about agony of defeat? Look at Frank's face right now, because he's going to lose.
Well played.
You don't need to say anything. You don't need to say anything. That is how you seal the deal. Shut it down. Let's go home, Woody.
You're never winning again.
Nobody pays attention to sports in Denver until something like this happens. But I just want to bring up the fact that there have been 10 major league championships that have been rewarded to Denver teams. That means 3 by the Broncos, means 3 by the Avalanche, 1 now for the Denver Nuggets, 1 for the Mammoth, who won in whatever that sport is. The Rapids won in the Major League Soccer, and
lacrosse.
World Team Tennis.
Woody. It's been a long 24 hours for you. We'll let it slide. Hey, 10 plus 65 is 75.
I just want to go home.